Intro music. So there's a new night vision mount that is finally hitting the public that is pretty unique, called the FPG-21 by a company that has no past connection with night vision. That's Swift. And what it's designed for is to solve a simple problem that has vexed anyone who's been using heavy night vision devices, like bulky stuff like Panos. Is that how do you stow them in a more comfortable way, a way that doesn't cause too much torque on the head, and also makes it able to clear your eye line better and make it a bit more manageable getting in and out of vehicles. So to fully understand how this thing worked in the first place, or like what the advantage is, I think we have to kind of go back to the beginning and that the problem it's trying to solve. So here's a G24, which is kind of a gold standard for quite some time in night vision mounts. It's pretty simple. You've got your vertical control, so you can slide the nods up and down. You have your forward and back, which is all totally understandable. Everyone uses this. The problem is when you try to stow them, and you can see how they are right here, is they're pretty far forward from your center of gravity. And this is about as far as they'll go anyway. You would have to have a special kind of mount that would kind of flip them further if you wanted less torque. And the problem here too is that even though it may be kind of hard to see, there's a difference with your eye line here, where if you have the nod stow, not only do you have all this torque because the moment of inertia is so large, you also, it doesn't fully clear your eye line if you are looking through, say, a clip-on night vision device, like through a scope. So what ends up happening is your head's usually tilted down a bit and you end up getting this bumping up against things. So what the whole Swift 21 project is basically SOCOM Small Business Innovation project, where they funded this design for a solution to this problem, especially with the new F-PANO and F-BINO systems, the fusion systems from L3. And those are roughly, a little bit heavier. And the point being is they're large, they're bulky, especially in the case of the F-PANOs, and they need to come up with a solution that solves those problems. All right, so in order to understand how this thing works and why it's so unique, let's look at basically what everything else is before this. The standard for a long time is just you've got this ops core, this shroud, this type of mount. And this is a standard that all these other mounts use. So like in this case, I got a G34, and the way it works is you have these little indent points. So this will lock in here, and this locks in down here at the bottom. And all the mounts, for the most part, are designed to interface with this methodology. What Swift has done is something completely different. They've gone away from that. So they've actually created their own modified version of the mount itself, and they have an adapter. So one of the downsides of this is you can't just put the mount in your helmet shroud. You've got to completely replace the helmet shroud, which just takes a few minutes. Where this is different is if you look at the old mount, you've got that little section on the bottom that the mount locks into. On this version, it's the same thing, except for there's this opening here, which allows the adapter to slide in. And the adapter actually screws into the mount itself. So this thing it's rock solid. And this is designed to give you your lateral, your vertical offsets for the mount. So all your vertical play is up here, and there's a little detent here which lets you unlock it and remove it. So the components, these are the things you need to have. You can't just buy them out unless someone sells the whole complete kit. You need these three components. The first being the shroud and the adapter. So this is what you're going to replace. And notice there's no bungees on this adapter, whereas the standard nowadays is to have the little retention bungees, or mostly to take out any kind of play or wobble with the goggles and the mount. That's completely unnecessary. It's something to point out with this. This is the most stable mount I've ever experienced in 20 plus years. You don't need any bungees at all. It's so solid. All right, so adapter with the shroud. You mount this on the helmet. Next thing you have is the actual mount itself. And this is where the two interact here. You basically connect this to that, and now you have your up and down, deploy stow. But then the last little component is you've got to install this adapter onto your dovetail. So again, it's another thing where this just takes a minute to install, but once you install it over the dovetail, these two now fit together, and this gives you your forward and backwards. So again, three components. You need the mount itself. This is kind of the expensive part. Then this thing also is light as hell. I'm not really sure what it's made out of, but it is extremely light. You need the shroud with the adapter. It comes as one thing, and you could obviously replace it, but this is a separate SKU basically. And then you need the actual dovetail adapter, and there are two versions of this. There's one for Binos and one for Panos. I honestly can't tell a huge difference between the two. I've got one of each, and they seem very similar. But and this takes well, the first time you install this on the mount, it can be, or on the dovetail, it's a little tricky. But once you've done it once successfully, the rest are easy. So there's a bit involved, but those are the three components you need. So don't be confused by, oh, I see this one thing for $100 or something. No. You have to get this whole kit and caboodle. Okay, so you've got the shroud installed on your helmet. So with the adapter, should already be in there. I mean, you can always remove it, but the adapter is in there with this little quick release. Now we have the actual mount itself. This is like kind of the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. And so this we install from the top. It slides in. You can see it captures. And there's actually a little detent over here, this little button. That is what you use to release it. But with that installed, all right, now we have our up and down motion. Okay, just like any ordinary mount. Quite a bit of room to do that. And then on the right side here, you've got your tension. So this will, once you find the height that you want, you just set your tension and you're good. This is where it starts to get interesting. Like, what's up with that? That's not like a standard dovetail. This is kind of a weird thing. So what this requires is you have to now put this adapter on your dovetail of your night vision goggles. So again, this is why I'm saying this is not a simple solution that you just swap out whenever you want. This is something you want kind of dedicated to the goggles and to the helmet. Doesn't mean you can't change it, just means it's going to take a few minutes. It's not something you can do like in the field. So what we have to do is we need to install this on the dovetail, and it's designed around Wilcox or L3 dovetails, but I've tried it on a few different ones and it seems to work fine. It's just a little tricky at first. All right, so you can see this has the dovetail shaped interface, right? That kind of spade, and that's going to obviously connect up with this. So we want the large opening to go to the small opening. Where it gets interesting is you can't just slide it on. There's this little moving piece here in the middle. And this, you want to slide first. You want to slide that a bit forward because that's going to end up catching in here and helping with tension. So it helps kind of lock the adapter in. So I'll slide that over. Once you get it past a certain point, now you're good. And you can see these rear parts, these actually correspond, like you'll see on the mount itself. With this, basically I just kind of pull it back as far as I can. And then the fun part is we have to take a little Allen key and we need to tighten these guys. All right, so we've got the mount installed to the adapter on the helmet. We've got the dovetail adapter installed on the goggles. We're ready to mount. This will only install this way. You have to like slide it in from the rear. Same way as when we installed the mount to the adapter, it only installed one direction because of the way the detent is set up. You can try to fit it in this way, but the problem is, again, it's not going to go from front to back. You have to go from back to front, and that means it's so much easier just to flip them up into stow mode. And then what you do is you've got these kind of angled bits on the back here, and they line up with the angled bits here. It's kind of as a reference. So what I end up doing generally is you just line up those parts here, and it'll slide in. Yeah, you don't need to push the detent. It locks in once it's in there. And so now you've got your forward and backward adjustment, and you can just dial in your tension. And then now you're good. Now you can just deploy as it is, and then use this to adjust your angle, your pivot, I suppose. All right, so with these stowed, what's nice is that because they're not out here, you've got less moment of inertia, so less torque pulling down, and you have also nothing obscuring out here, so you can get behind an optic, no big issues. It was always a pain in the butt for me because I liked using these guys, and I would go out for a pretty decent movement, take all my gear off, set up the firing point with tripod and everything, get behind the rifle, maybe doing some scanning, whatever it may be, and I can't get behind, or it's such a super challenge. Either this is being bumped into something, or I just can't get behind it. It's awkward, so I have to end up taking my helmet off, put on my ear pro separately, and then use it. Here, this thing flips out of the way. I can get behind the scope, no problem, no big deal. I can also walk around with these stowed and don't feel like I have giant antlers sticking out, whatever. It's less torque on your neck and less awkwardness getting in and out of vehicles as well. All right, so I know the next question you're going to ask is, will this work with binos because you don't have panos, let's just say. Yes, it will work with binos. In fact, here I've got the adapter on here. Originally, this was designed for not just the F-PANOs, which are slightly bulkier, heavier versions of the GPMBGs with Fusion. It's for Fusion binos, hence F-BINOs as well, which is basically like these Nighthawk manual gain housing here. These binos, instead it would have a thermal, and it's a little bit more heavier, larger housing. Same issue, basically. I just think that with standard binos, it's not that big of a deal. Case in point here, let's have a look. So go ahead and mount. Let's adjust. Put these guys in the center. And let's flip them around. All right, so these are working the way we normally would. And then we flip them around, and they're way up here. Yeah, not that big of a difference. Sure, yeah, you can use it with a clip-on, but I mean, even with articulating binos that you can fold down, you kind of don't really need to be going out that far to begin with. So it can be slightly challenging to get behind a scope for clip-on, but it's not impossible. It's not like a deal breaker with like it is with panos and a G24, for example. But yeah, with articulating binos, this mount kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Again, if it's slightly heavier, like the F-PANOs or the F-BINOs, it would maybe make more sense, but I don't think so with this.